Hello everyone and welcome back to my Warhammer 40k guides. I am Brady and today I figured I would do another video showing off my current collection of Warhammer 40k models. So last year around this time I made a video showing off my entire collection at that time, and I figured it would be cool to do something like that every year and show my updated collection after a year. So I guess every July I'm going to be uploading a video showing how much larger my collection has become. I think it'll be fun, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. So about that too, I'm going to go over every army that I own, and I'm going to go through every unit, and I'm going to have little stories. We're going to have a story time today. I'm going to be doing what I did in the last video, and I'm going to be talking about like all the armies, why I purchased them, what I like about those units, just stuff like that. So you're going to get to see some cool looking models, but you also get to learn about myself a little bit as well, and why I got into the hobby and why I play Warhammer 40k. So I'm going to be first going over all of the painted models that I own. Then after that, I'm going to quickly show you my my pile of shame, which is a lot bigger than it was last time in last July. So yeah, anyways. So let's get started from, let's go back to the beginning from when I very first started, and that would be my Chaos Army. So when I first started the game back in 7th edition, I played an army called Khorne Daemonkin. But now in 8th edition, this army just doesn't exist anymore. Games Workshop just deleted it out of the game. So now if you want to play anything that's remotely close to this, you got to play Chaos Demons mixed with Chaos Space Marines. So that's what this red army is right here. It's Chaos Demons mixed with Chaos Space Marines. And this is what I call my Red Legion. If you've ever heard me refer to that in any of my videos, this is my Red Legion. It's a bunch of Khorne Demons with Marines, except the Marines in my fluff, because it's a fan-made fan cannon, I guess you can call it. It's my own like custom warband. They're supposed to be Khorne and Slaanesh. But I actually only have Khorne Demons. I have a couple of Slaanesh Demons that I've purchased recently, but they're not built or painted yet, and that's why they're not on the table. This table is only for my finished painting, my models that are finished being painted, except for some of the Space Wolf stuff. Some of that's just never going to get painted, and I'll get to that when we get to the Space Wolves. So yeah, this is my Khorne and Slaanesh warband, and it's called the Red Legion. How I came across this is, again, my Khorne Daemonkin army got deleted out of the game. And when 8th edition arrived, I went to my first tournament. And yeah, that's correct. My first tournament was in 8th edition. I've only been playing this game for about 3.5 years, maybe 4 years now. So I've actually haven't been playing as long as a lot of people think I have. I just caught on to the game real quick. It all clicked, and I don't know, I understood it, and I got pretty decent at it. But, so I went to my first tournament, and I brought my Red Legion, because at the time it was my only army. I brought my Red Legion alongside Magnus, because I bought Magnus because he was beautiful. And I bought a few Thousand Suns units, but I didn't have enough for a full army. So I just brought the Red Legion alongside Magnus, because I figured that would be strong. Why not? Let's have fun with that. And that was back when, admittedly, Magnus was broken as crap. But he has been nerfed since then, and he's no longer as broken as crap. He's still pretty decent. But yeah, at that event, they were doing the whole thing where your hobby score was tied into your actual gaming score. So I had to like make up a reason for why my army was the way it was, and I couldn't think of anything on the spot, so I thought of Black Legion, and I was like, well, why don't I just call them Red Legion? And I did that, and I made up a story on the spot. It was like, oh, this female demon prince actually convinced a bunch of Marines to come join her in her crusade against the Emperor. And so a bunch of Marines from all different walks of life, like all different chapters, all different everything, all came together under her rule to defy the Emperor. And he liked that story. He gave me a good score for my hobby score. And so after that, I kind of just stuck with it. And I've even written more lore about my army and stuff. Because for those of you who don't know, I absolutely love creative writing. It's part of the reason why I do my videos the way I do. I love writing the scripts for my videos. So I ended up writing a bunch of lore. If you guys want to hear about that, maybe I'll make another video about that some other time. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's why I now have this army as my Red Legion. So let's actually, now that you know the backstory of it, let's go over the actual units. So we have 20 Khorne Bloodletters, And they're still on the small bases because I've been too lazy to change them to the big bases. They should now be on the larger bases, the 32 millimeters, I believe it is, because it is kind of cheesy to have them all on these small bases, and you can get a ton of them in the close combat when realistically you shouldn't. So yeah, I should put that on the big bases. To be fair, I hardly ever play them, and when I do, I only play them with like 15 or 20, and even with the big bases, fitting 15 or 20 in close combat isn't that hard, so it doesn't make a huge difference. It's when you get up to squads like 30 where it actually makes a huge difference. So yeah, there's my 20 Bloodletters. We have my 3 Blood Crushers, which are absolutely garbage. They break off in tons of areas because they're so hard to transport because of how like awkward they are. The rules aren't that great either. I would almost always, or actually I would always rather take Bloodletters over these guys because you can just deep strike in the Bloodletters, get them a 3d6 charge. Whereas these guys, if you deep strike them in, they usually don't make it into combat. If you try running them up the board, they definitely don't make it into combat. So yeah, they're not that great, but they're cool looking models. I then have a bunch of counts as Khorne Fleshhounds, because at the time, and I think even still at the time of making this video, Khorne Fleshhounds are like $70, at least in Canadian money, in our maple syrup money. The Khorne Fleshhounds are like $70 for 5, whereas these were Vampire Count direwolves from Fantasy, and they were $30 for 10. So of course I went with that and just painted them all red and bloody and stuff and made them look kind of corny. And yeah, so now they're my Khorne Fleshhounds. I've brought them to tournaments. I've had no issues. Nobody's ever had an issue with me using them as Khorne Fleshhounds. So yeah, they're my Khorne Fleshhounds. We then have a Skull Cannon, I believe it's called. It's been a while since I used a lot of this Chaos Army, but like I said, it was my first army, so. Skull Cannon, it's alright, but It can be okay, but personally I don't really like it because most of the games I play nowadays are competitive focused, and this thing just doesn't really hold its weight. So yeah, I don't know, don't really like it. Then we have this counts as Demon Prince. My grandmother actually bought this for me at a yard sale for $1. She asked me if I could use this in my game, and I said yeah, sure, I just got to put it on the base and it should be good to go. So that's my counts as Demon Prince. I hardly ever use him anymore. This was back at the time when this was my only army and I didn't have much to pick from. So, yeah, that's why I used him. But nowadays, he just sits on my shelf as, yeah, a good memory. Then we have the Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage. So, like I mentioned in my last video, or my last video a year ago that was about my collection, this guy is very special to me because my sister bought him for me. And she bought them for me to celebrate me, I guess you can say, conquering my depression. Because for very many years, I was not in a very good place. And, I didn't want to leave my house. I didn't want to talk to people. And, yeah, eventually, part of the reason, or the main reason why I got into Warhammer 40k, is it would be a fun hobby that got me out of the house and allowed me to meet like-minded people, like other nerdy people that like video games and sci-fi and fantasy and all that kind of stuff. So I got into Warhammer 40k, found a local club, started playing more often, and since then I've made a bunch of friends and my life has been a lot better since then. So my sister was so proud of me for actually being able to get out of that rut, that she went out and she bought me this guy to celebrate and hopefully to make me excited to want to continue going out and playing Warhammer 40k. So yeah, that Bloodthirster will always be very special to me. He signifies the time that I was able to conquer my depression. So yeah, that's that. Speaking of which, if anyone out there, if any of you guys are depressed as well, I just want to let you know, if you need to talk to anybody or anything, and you don't have very many people to talk to, feel free to reach out to me. I've been there before, so yeah, if anyone watching this video is in a dark place themselves and needs someone to talk to, feel free to send me a message on Facebook or email me at almostprogaming@hotmail.com. I'll be glad to talk to you and, yeah, just hopefully make you feel better. So anyways, moving on. Khorne Lord on Juggernaut is a fantasy model, but I use him because he's cool. We have my Sorcerer, my Chaos Lord or Exalted Champion, and the first model I ever painted. So let me show you this. So this was the first model I ever painted, and I decided not to strip him or do anything because I wanted a memory of where I started from and where I ended up. So yeah, if you remember, this is the first model I ever painted, and I'll show you a more recent model. And this is a more recent model. I just painted this guy last year at some time. He's not the most recent model I've painted, but probably the most recent for my Chaos Space Marines, to be honest. But yeah, he's not amazing. It's not a Golden Demon winner or anything like that, but I mean, it's definitely an improvement from that last guy. So yeah, for those of you who aren't that great at painting either, don't give up. Just keep trying, keep practicing. That's all it takes. Just do that, and also use the resources you have available. Go on YouTube, watch Warhammer TV. They got some great guides on there. The Lord of Layers, Duncan. Yes, I have a picture of Duncan on my wall. It's for inspiration. So yeah, we got a Sorcerer or Chaos Lord on bike. We got a Sorcerer or Chaos Lord or Exalted Champion, a Sorcerer, Chaos Lord, Exalted Champion, Sorcerer, all of these characters, they're interchangeable. You can use them as whatever you want. I then have a Sorcerer in Terminator armor, and this guy comes from the Dark Vengeance box set. And because I didn't play Dark Angels, I just figured I would turn them all into Chaos, because Dark Angels are Chaos anyways, right guys? So, yeah, so I got that. I got this was in the ending of my last video last year. And this was inside the box, and I asked you guys to guess what was in that box. And it was this model. It's the Lady of Strife model from Creature Caster. And I use her as my Red Queen for my Red Legion. So she is like my Primarch equivalent, I guess, even though she's not really like the one that used her gene seed or anything. I don't know much about lore. She just convinced a bunch of Marines and Guardsmen to fight for her, and that's pretty much it. And she's also a Slaanesh and Khorne Demon, so depending on what I'm doing in that game, I choose to either give her the Mark of Slaanesh or Mark of Khorne. But yeah, I love this model. She's amazing. I love playing with her. She's, yeah, really good model. So check out Creature Caster if you like this model. It won't be allowed at official Games Workshop tournaments, but at most like independent ITC events and stuff like that, nobody will really bat an eye at this thing. As long as it looks cool, as long as you painted it right and put it on the proper base, as you can see here, then yeah, nobody should really have a problem with it. Then we have my regular Demon Prince, who likes to flip people off. And I've had him for a very long time. He was probably like the 4th or 5th model I ever bought. I bought him inside, I think it was called like the Blood Tithe box. It came with blood letters, these guys, the Skull Cannon, and him. It was a very good deal at the time, so yeah, I bought that box. Then we also have Lord Tyrus, which is actually Abaddon, but I call him Lord Tyrus because in my fluff, he's just like... he's the chapter master, quote-unquote, of my Chaos Warband. I use the Abaddon model and Abaddon rules, obviously, but kind of like, if any of you are familiar with Winter's SEO, how he kind of does like his own thing, he makes up his own fluff for his army and his own characters and stuff like that. That's the same thing with me. I use this guy as Lord Tyrus, even though he's actually Abaddon. But yeah, so he's painted in my Red Legion colors. I had him painted up by Bearbox Studios, which is a current sponsor of the channel. And there's going to be much more stuff throughout this video that's painted by him. So I'll put a link in the description if you guys like what he does. He's absolutely amazing at painting. He does it in a timely manner. And he always has a great job. We have all of the older Chaos Space Marines. I actually have some of the newer ones, but they're low on my painting priority list because I really only paint stuff that I'm going to be using in tournaments or competitive games. And Chaos Space Marines, they just don't cut it today. They're not that good. I still have my script ready for Chaos Space Marines versus Cultists, which ones are better. I still have everything ready. I just haven't had the time to get around to it, and I've had other videos I've wanted to do first. So sorry for anyone that's waiting for that video. I promise it will come eventually. I just don't know when. We have a Vindicator. Vindicator used to be part of my Grey Knight army, but Grey Knights don't get Vindicators anymore. So it's now part of my Chaos army because it has red on it. I don't know. It was the easiest thing to do with it. We have Old Faithful. This is my Land Raider. She's seen some better days, but I actually had a friend who doesn't play Warhammer anymore. He gave me this model and some Terminators because I ended up getting his Blood Angel army sold for him. And at the time, Blood Angels were complete crap in 7th edition. So he was so happy I sold that stuff for him. He gave me this because obviously, like, if you look, like, the front, it's, like, kind of busted out. Like, it's really beat up and stuff. So, yeah, he wasn't really going to be able to sell this to anybody for anything worthwhile. So he just gave it to me for free. And so yeah, Nick, if you're watching this video, thank you. I appreciate it, man. And then, so yeah, we got that. We got Deafy, who I tried to paint to match the Defiler from Mini Wargaming, because Dave's a great dude. He's the main reason I got into Khorne Demons in the first place. Because at the time when I started playing, Khorne Demonkin was like the brand new army that was out, and everyone was, well, Mini Wargaming was covering it non-stop because Dave was loving the army. So I really got into the game watching Dave play, and I just wanted to mimic Dave, so I made my own Deafy. So that's my Deafy, and yeah, I tried to make him look as much like Dave's Deafy as possible. And I also had the idea too, when I first started the army, all my vehicles were going to be black and gold, and all my infantry were going to be red and gold. But since then, I have changed my mind because, well, I got this Land Raider, but then also I got all this stuff back here that I just painted red because I thought it looked better. So yeah, so there's a Deafy. I got a couple of Rhinos, which again were like some of the first things I bought, and that's why they're black. Same thing with the Helldrake or the Hell Turkey. That thing was one of the first things I bought as well. Because at the beginning, I did what most new players do. You buy the biggest things possible that cost the most points so you can get to like a 2,000 point list as quick as possible. That is not good to do for competitive play. But I mean, if you're just trying to get 2,000 point games as fast as possible, then yeah, just buy some big stuff that costs a lot of points, and it makes it quicker. You have less stuff to paint, and you can get your army on the table. So continuing, we have 3 Chaos Terminators. The reason there's only 3 is because in 7th edition, you used to be able to bring units of 3, and that's all I ever did. So now with 8th edition, you need 5, and I have some in my pile of shame. I just haven't gotten around to building them, because again, priorities, I build and paint the stuff that's competitive over the other stuff, and I've got so much stuff waiting in line that I'm most likely never going to get to the Terminators, to be honest. We got 5 Chaos Bikers. These things are actually pretty damn good now after the Bolter rule change. I use them, again, I use my army with Black Legion rules right now currently because I like using Abaddon. He's a fun model. And also, this army isn't my competitive army. I only play the Chaos Space Marines when I'm just trying to play casually and have some fun. Yeah, they're totally not a competitive build right now. They can be a competitive army, but not with the models that I currently own, so I just play them for fun once in a while. But these bikes are actually really good. Then we move on to the Dreadknots or the Hellbrutes. I actually bought the regular Dreadknots over the Hellbrute because I like the regular Marine aesthetic. I don't really like all the spiky bits and stuff that, I don't know, I'm just weird. I like chaos, and I like chaos rules, but I like Alpha Legion type chaos. Like, they look like regular Marines, but they just follow chaos. So that's why I bought the Dreadknots instead. Plus, the Dreadknots actually came with the loadouts I wanted at the time, which was a missile launcher and twin las cannon. Thing is now, though, is after the rule of 3, I can only use 3 of these guys in a game at a time because, yeah, you're only allowed 3. So that kind of sucked, but whatever. Then we have a Devastator with, I usually use those guns as butcher cannons, but you can honestly use them as whatever you want because they're technically not the correct guns and it's a conversion, so you can just count them as whatever you want. I usually count them as butcher cannons because that's the best loadout for a Devastator. We have the Hellbrute from the Dark Vengeance box, which I think I've probably used about 5 times in my entire life. And that was before I ended up buying these guys. And then, yeah, the Helldrake and stuff. And that's pretty much, oh, I guess, last part of the Red Legion is all the Cultists. That's how many painted Cultists I have. I still have about another 50 or so that aren't painted. And I was going to buy a hell of a lot more until Games Workshop decided Cultists deserved to be 5 points a model. And yeah, that kind of killed it for me. And so yeah, now I guess let's get into my Thousand Suns army. So for the Thousand Suns stuff, we have, of course, Magnus the Red. You can't have a Thousand Suns army without the Primarch. So yeah, Magnus the Red, I bought him, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I'll go over it again. I bought him at like the end of 7th edition, like around that he came out, and in 7th edition he was absolutely broken. It was kind of dumb. At the beginning of 8th edition he was also broken, but they did tune him down. He used to be able to re-roll 1s for his invulnerable saves, so you give him a 3-up invul and he would re-roll 1s, and it was way too strong. Like, you could kill him, but you needed to have 1,000,000 guns in your list to make him roll 1,000,000 saves. And even then, it would still take 2 or 3 turns to kill him, usually. Unless you're Cadia and you have the Vengeance for Cadia or the Relic of Lost Cadia, that would do a number to him. But yeah, so we have Magnus. We have our 2 little spawns. We have some Rubric Marines. These guys in the last video were actually gold, and recently I've got them filled in with the blue or teal or whatever you want to call it. And they're pretty fun. I used to think they're not competitively viable, and I'm still leaning towards that they aren't, but I've been playing a lot of competitive games using 3 units of rubrics, and they actually are decent when you're going, if you want to turn them into engineers, because they're decently survivable, especially if you can throw them inside a ruin and hide them, because then stuff like wyverns and stuff that's going to be able to kill them while they're hiding isn't going to be able to kill them as easily as they'd kill something like cultists or brimstones. So the rubrics, in small groups of 5, they're not that bad, to be honest. At least the way I use them. Like I said, they're mainly, I just turn them into engineers almost every game. And if they're not, then they're just like backfield objective holders that are a little bit more durable than brimstones or cultists. As for the Scarab Occult Terminators, these guys are really good, but I think it's only worth bringing them in a unit of 10, because I've been using them in a unit of 5, and they're just kind of underwhelming. They die really easily, and they come in and they'll kill like a scout bike squad or a unit and a half of guardsmen or something like that, which is alright, but for how many points you pay for these guys, they do kind of die pretty easily, and they don't kill enough, so I'd say it'd be better to put them in a unit of 10, so that way once they do hit the board, you can buff them with like Weaver of Fates and Glamour of Tzeentch, and they'll be a lot more survivable, and it'll be worth putting those buffs on them at that point, because the unit will be big enough and worthwhile to buff. And with their bolters and stuff, with the new beta bolter rule, they're actually pretty decent if they're on the board. So you just make them survivable through those spells, and they can just walk up and blast stuff away. Of course, I would deep strike them in first, so they can't be shot at on turn 1 in case you don't go first. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Sorcerers. I have Ahriman and these 2 converted Demon Princes. For those of you who are wondering what these are, I believe they're called Morghasts, and they're from Warhammer Age of Sigmar, but I use them as my Thousand Suns Princes because they look really good as Thousand Suns Princes, and I even put like a little bit of bling on them to give them the Tzeentch symbol, so they're true conversions. We have Ahriman. I got mine on a disc, but I've recently been thinking about taking him off the disc and just putting him on foot because he's cheaper, you can fit more into your list that way. But I'm kind of on the fence with it because him on a disc, it makes him stronger against the Vindicator because he's no longer infantry and he's now cavalry. So he doesn't get wounded on a 2+, so he's kind of like the Demon Princes in that regard. Whereas these guys, the regular Sorcerers or Exalted Sorcerers, they get picked off by a Vindicator pretty easily. But 3 of them, the ones that have swords, I usually use as the 3 Sorcerers for the Rubric squads. And the 2 that have staves are my Exalted Sorcerers or Sorcerers that I take in the list depending on if I need points or if I can afford the Exalted Sorcerers or not. We then have a Zangor Shaman who is painted beautifully, but I never really... I just can't fit him in a lot of lists. But I do think he's good, especially if you are playing Zangors. And especially if you're using multiple units of Zangors or you're using like the Relic to deep strike a unit of Zangors across the board, you can do it with this guy, because he's pretty cheap, so even if he dies, it's not that big of a deal. Then we have a unit of 30 Zangors. This is, right now, with my current Tzeentch army, like everything here, I use the Zangors as my screen. So like in most competitive armies, you'd have Plague Bearers as your screen. But trying to keep it fluffy and just have a Tzeentch army instead of a Chaos Soup army, I use these guys as the screen because you can buff them to be -1 to hit and turn their 5-up invul into a 4-up invul with Glamour of Tzeentch, Weaver of Fates. So they're my screen to walk up the board, and then on turn 2 or 3, after these guys have gotten like demolished and there's only like 5 or 6 left, that's when you deep strike in the Pink Horrors, and the Pink Horrors can now provide the new screen while also shooting stuff at the same time. And you do that, and you buff them up with these guys. These are my counts as changelings. They're actually Gaunt Summoners from Age of Sigmar, but I didn't feel like paying $50 times 2 for 2 different heralds that come on discs when I didn't really want the discs anyways. So I bought these guys, and they're good enough. So I use them as my change casters. And then, of course, we have the 30 Pink Horrors, which they're amazing. They come in, they got a 4-up invul. They're only toughness 3, but eh. But when you have more than 20 models, they get 3 shots each, which will be strength 4 if they're within 6 inches of the Herald. And if you buff them with Flickering Flames, I believe is the name of the spell. They get +1 to wound, so it'll be strength 4 with +1 to wound, which means they wound regular Marines on 3s, they wound Custodians on 4s, and stuff like that. So it's pretty nice. They're not that good against Custodians or units with a 2-up save, but they're good for clearing chaff, like killing a bunch of Guardsmen, which are very prevalent in the meta, or killing a bunch of Dark Elves or Eldar or whatever you need. But for mostly, I just use them for the screen for my army. And my army is just, I use a ton of characters and I just smite you from across the board and from behind my screen. Which, by the way, the pinks, the Zangors, and those Terminators back there were all painted by my new painting sponsor, which is Bearbox Studios. And then we have the Cultists. I used them in my Thousand Suns as well because I didn't feel like painting up new ones when I already have the models built and painted. And they kind of still match because of like the colors that like Armon has, or if you have them on the field with Magnus the Red, they still match. So I use these Cultists in there too. When I play my Tzeentch list, which I'm actually thinking about making a video on, just to show you guys how it works and stuff like that in case anyone's interested, I use 2 units of the Cultists. I use 3 battalions, and the Cultists and the Zangors make up the troops in 1 battalion. The Pink Horrors and 2 units of 10 Brimstones make up the next battalion, and 3 units of Rubrics make up the other battalion. So I play with 3 battalions in my Tzeentch list, which gives you a ton of command points, which is great, because every turn you can spend 2 points to keep a unit alive for morale, which would be like the Zangors, or on turn 2 or 3 you do it with the Pinks. And you just have so many command points that you kind of don't really know what to do with them in Thousand Suns. I love it. It's amazing. But yeah, that's my Thousand Suns and my Tzeentch army. Then let's move over to Space Wolves, which, oh yeah, by the way, I didn't show it. Thousand Suns. So over here somewhere we have the Space Wolves, and here's my Space Wolves. So this army has actually just sat in a box since that last year's video. I haven't played it at all, and even before that video, I played them maybe 2 or 3 times in 8th edition, and was just like, yeah, I'm not having fun. The models that I currently own aren't that great. So to me, sure, this is a Space Wolf army, but to make it worthwhile playing, I'd have to like buy basically a brand new army and not use any of this, except for maybe the Long Fangs and the Rune Priests, and maybe some characters. Other than that, though, yeah, this army's... At least with the models I have, I think Space Wolves are okay. I think people don't give them enough credit. I do think Space Wolves can be good if you build them right. The thing is I don't have the units to build them right. And I don't feel like investing to build them right because it's basically like starting an army from fresh. And to be honest, I like other Space Marine chapters a lot more than I like Space Wolves. So I guess we'll quickly go over it. We got... Oh, and... I didn't paint any of this myself. I bought this army plus my Grey Knights off of a friend, and he gave me a decent deal on them. And I really only wanted the Grey Knights, but he was selling his whole collection, and he gave me such a good enough deal that I took the Space Wolves too. Plus, those were like my first armies when I was playing, and I just wanted more armies to play with. So yeah, I took his deal. But the Space Wolves, we got just a bunch of Marines, we got some Long Fangs, we got Rune Priests, we got Murder Fang and another Dreadnought or something else. There might be another character Dreadnought that I'm forgetting of. We got some Terminators. We got a Vindicator. We got Wolf Cavalry. These 3 models are like Dungeons and Dragons models, but I mean, they're big wolves. They work as Wolf Cav, and they have like the same, close to the same size base. So I used them as that when I did play the army, and that's pretty much it. And in fact, actually, if anyone, like I know I just talked shit about this army, but if someone's new or just wants models to play with or something, I'm actually going to be selling this army very soon. So if you're interested in the Space Wolves, again, I'm telling you ahead of time, if you're trying to get into competitive, you don't want to buy this. But if you just want to expand your collection, have some more Space Wolves, or you're brand new and getting into the game and don't care about competitive and just want to put models on the board, I'll do them for a decent price, so make me an offer. Just send me a message through Facebook or almostprogaming@hotmail.com and make me an offer and I'll let you know. But yeah, these Space Wolves are not going to be part of the collection for very long because I am going to sell them eventually, or they're just going to sit inside the box for another year. So yeah, anyways, let's move on then. Really quickly, we'll go over the Astra Militarum or Imperial Guard. right now I only have 5 models for them painted, plus Celestine, which I know she's not Imperial Guard, but eh. I only have 5 models painted. All I have right now is the Loyal 32 plus some mortars, and I just bought them to play alongside my Grey Knights and my Imperial Knights. And I went for the paint scheme of Starship Troopers. I don't know if you guys remember that movie from way back in the day, but that's what I was going for when I painted these guys. I wanted them to look like Starship Troopers. And then Celestine is another model that was painted by Bearbox Studios. He did a phenomenal job on her. She's one of my favorite painted models. I love that model. And that's it for my painted guard. Then we move over to my Grey Knights, the Army of Useless. So this army has a lot of problems right now. I hardly ever play them unless it's like I'm playing against a new player or I'm just trying to play casually and have some fun. But yeah, this army is not that strong at all. They definitely need some updates. Like if you've seen my video, let's talk about the best 40k army, and it was just a parody and making fun of Grey Knights. That's pretty much it. I got strike squads. I got enough to make 3. I got Terminators or Paladins, but whenever I play them, I always use them as Paladins. I don't think the Terminators are worth it. We have 2 Nemesis Grandmaster Dreadknights or just regular Dreadknights, but the regular Dreadknights are totally not worth using, so you just use them as Nemesis Grandmaster Dreadknights. I got a Dreadnought, a Rhino, a Razorback, and a Land Raider Crusader. And one cool thing I do like doing with the army, though, is you put a bunch of Paladins plus like a character inside of the Land Raider Crusader, and then you use Gate of Infinity on it turn 1, get it into rapid fire range, unload a bunch of stuff into your opponent's army, and then you get your Paladins out and go charge stuff and shoot stuff on the next turn. It's alright, but against armies that come with enough firepower, they can kill that thing on turn 1 and then kill all the Paladins that get outside of it as well. So yeah, it's alright, but it's very expensive and you lose models too quickly for how expensive they are, in my opinion. So the army is just not worth playing, at least as a full army. I do think the Nemesis Grandmasters are okay though, and when I play my Knight army, I always use the Nemesis Grandmasters, and I have a 3rd one in a box somewhere that I still haven't built. It's been in the box since last year. But I think the Nemesis Grandmasters are the only good thing Grey Knights have right now. And yeah, like I said earlier, I bought this army off my buddy. He gave me a good deal on it, but I actually love Grey Knights. They're one of my favorite chapters. So I'm not selling them. I'm going to keep them, and I'm just hoping that Games Workshop fixes the rules one day and they actually become viable. Now we have the Imperial Knights, which actually, they don't have any like Imperial icons on them. They don't have anything like that. I made sure not to put anything like that on them because I wanted to be able to use them as Imperial Knights or Chaos Knights. And like I said earlier, I don't really like spikes in the first place anyways, so I wouldn't put spikes on them even if they were Chaos, just because I don't like spikes. I don't know, that's just me. So yeah, these are my Imperial or Chaos Knights, although I have yet to actually play with them as Chaos Knights, even though I do have the Codex now. I've only played them as Imperial Knights, and they're pretty fun. I use them as Krast. I give the Headsman Mark to the Crusader guy. I give Landstrider to the Gallant, and I haven't lost a game with them yet so far. They're pretty good. I use them alongside like my Loyal 32, plus like I said, the Nemesis Grandmasters, just to have a bunch of big units that people can't really deal with. And the Nemesis Grandmasters are actually a decent screen alongside the Helverins for the big guys. So Smash Captains can't make it to them on turn 1 and stuff. And that's pretty much it. I got these guys from, if you remember, there was a box called the Renegade box. And it was like $200, at least 200 in Canadian. And you got 2 knights out of the deal. So I really wish that box was still a thing. I would go buy another one. But apparently I looked for it like about a month ago, and it's no longer a thing. They don't sell the Renegade box anymore, which is unfortunate. So now you have to buy your knights one at a time, pay around the same price you would have for 2 knights, which sucks. But it is what it is. Then the final painted army is my Drukhari, or my Dark Eldar. This is the army that kind of helped get my channel to where it is today, because this is the army that I used to play second in an ITC major, which is the big jumpstart my channel had, and I started getting a lot of more subscribers. So we got 2 Razorwing Jet Fighters, 3 Ravagers, which the guns aren't on them because they're magnetized, and I was just too lazy to put them on. We have a Raider, 9 Venoms, but I I believe, 13 Venoms currently. The other ones just aren't painted because the new Drukhari list I'm going for is going to actually have 14 Venoms altogether. I'm just slowly working on it, and I can't decide if I want to do that. I'll soup competitively. I'm still on the fence. Or I might even just buy a Tau army. I was also considering that as well. So we will see. As for characters, we actually have some witches here, which are new. They're a new addition from last time. And the reason they're in the list is because, yeah, these used to be in my list. I used to use Doom and Jinx with a Laytalk guys. But now Doom and Jinx doesn't work with Drukhari anymore. So this whole battalion is essentially useless to me. Like, there's no point in running this battalion anymore because the spells just don't do anything for me. It's not worth it. But yeah, so that's what happened, and that's how the Witch Cult made it into my list. So yeah, there's that. Here are all my Archons. I have 3 with blasters. These 2 guys, they have random loadouts. I hardly ever use them, to be honest. And then we have the 1 Archon that I use as... she's my warlord usually, like in the Blackheart detachment, or at least when I was still using the Blackheart detachment with the 3 Ravagers. My new list actually has 0 Ravagers. So yes, a shocking, I know. Some people are like, but they're so good. Yeah, but with what I want to do, the Ravagers actually stick out like a sore thumb, and they're still incredibly good, don't get me wrong, but with the way I'm playing my list, the Ravagers just don't fit, in my opinion. And yeah, I got a bunch of Cabalites, all with 1 blaster in each squad. And that's basically it. That's all of my painted armies. That is my entire painted collection, alongside the codexes for each of these armies. And so now, I guess really quickly, some of you are probably here for my pile of shame as well. So yeah, let's go over that real quick. So over here, I have my Custodian jet bikes that I built a while ago and still haven't gotten around to painting. I have a full 2,000 point Custodian army. And the other stuff is over on my table, which I'll get to in a minute. So I bought some Caladius Grav Tanks. I'm going to throw them in the list. I'm just waiting for them to arrive. And yeah, that should be fun. Those things are broken, so I'm going to use them while they're broken. Because, yeah, broken. Down here, underneath some terrain that I have, and whatever this thing is, I got a box of Scouts, plus the Space Marine Apocalypse box, which I am... People have been asking, what chapter are you going to go? And I'm still undecided, but it's going to be either Crimson Fists or Ultramarines. But I'm leaning towards Crimson Fists, just because they're not as popular as Ultramarines, and I like being different. So, hence, like, my Red Legion being painted a custom color and stuff, because I wanted to do something different. Same thing with my Dark Eldar. Like, the armies I paint myself are usually something different. They don't follow the norm. Because same thing with, like, the Knights. I just like different things. I don't know. Also, I painted the Knights white because I wanted them to be my white Knights. Get it? Then over here, we have a ton of sprues that I haven't taken the bits out for yet because, well, when I look at this, I get very discouraged because that's a lot of work. Here's all the bins and stuff where I keep all of my organized bits. As you can see, there's some Yu-Gi-Oh stuff in there because I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh competitively many, many years ago. As for stuff that's not built, I have Guilliman, which is one of the reasons why I'm thinking about going Ultramarines, just because I have Guilliman. I think this is something... Let me get under there. Hey, it's one of those guys, because originally when I was building my Dark Eldar list, back when these spells actually worked with them, I was going to do a Supreme Command instead of a battalion, but then I noticed with Agents of Vect, I wanted a battalion so I could have 2 battalions for more command points for more Agents of Vect. So I didn't go with the Supreme Command, and instead I went with the battalion, and didn't have enough points for this guy, and also he wasn't really needed. At the time, you only really needed 1 Warlock and 1... Farseer, that's what it's called. I got leftover brimstones in this box, or not that box, I think that's just leftover bits. I have leftover bits from witches in here, because I had to buy 2 boxes, but I only needed 15. What's this thing? I think this is a Succubus? Yeah, it's a Succubus, because in one of my builds, I had the Archite Glaive on another one, and that's not how the Succubuses I have right now, only one of them has an Archite Glaive. So I bought this to fix that up, and then after that I changed my list again and didn't need it, but I have it for if I ever need it again one day. And I believe this is a Acorn Harold. Yep. Bought this guy a long time ago and just haven't got around to painting him. And that's pretty much it. I bought him because I thought he'd be good with the bloodletters, give him the +1 strength, but then I realized they don't really need it, so I didn't use them. And then yeah, Gilliman. We have the Grey Knight Nemesis Grandmaster, or just a regular Nemesis Dreadknot, but again, I only use them as Grandmasters. The regular, it's kind of like tank commanders. It's not worth using the regular guys when you can use the characters, which do the same job but better for a slightly more expensive price. Then we have the leftover ladies from Celestine. I never built them. I just built Celestine and got her painted, but her friends are in there. We have some Scourges, because in one of the Dark Eldar lists, I was actually going to build a brigade. And for the fast attack slot, I was going to put in Scourges. And I only had 2 units of Scourges, and this was the 3rd unit. And I just never got around to doing them. I think I actually just stole some bits out of this, like blasters or guns that look like blasters, and converted them to be blasters for my Cabalites. Zangor Enlightened. There's 2 of them in there, because I used one of them as the Zangor Shaman. Like, just put a staff on them and called them a Shaman. So, yeah, these guys are probably just going to sit there for a long time. Then I have Custodian Wardens, which are actually decent units, but I didn't want them originally. I clicked on the wrong box while ordering my stuff on Games Workshop Online. I wanted just Custodian Guard, but the boxes were the same price, and they're gold models, and I didn't double check, and I clicked on the wrong box. So, yeah, I got this box that I didn't wanted, but hey, I'll use them one day, maybe, probably not, I don't know. And then leftover horrors from the Brimstones. I built the Brimstones but never built the blue guys because I didn't really see them being needed. And then more pile of shame. This is the true pile of shame. Look at all that. So many unpainted models. Which, speaking of which, a lot of this stuff I'm probably going to be selling because I don't think I'm ever going to use it. Like, for example, this Forge Fiend. Yeah, I'll probably sell that. If anybody wants it, send me a message. Give me an offer, and it's yours. I got some Chaos characters that I've just never built. I got Voldus. Here's the rest of the Custodian stuff that I just have yet to paint. I've played with the army. I just haven't painted it yet. I got a Demon Prince because you were allowed 1,000,000 Demon Princes at one point in time, but now you're only allowed 3. Doesn't matter which data sheet you use, only 3 Demon Princes. So yeah, this guy's just going to sit here. I guess what his purpose is going to be is... So the Red Queen, I normally use her as a Khorne Demon Prince with the Skull Reaver Axe. If I were to bring that to a tournament and they say you can't use that model because it's too big or it's not a GW model, I can use this guy in her place. So I can bring him as like the replacement if I'm not allowed to use her. So yeah, that's I guess what this guy's job will be in life. He was also going to be the 3rd Demon Prince in my Thousand Suns. But yeah, once I like running the Khorne Demon Prince alongside the 2 Demon Princes from Thousand Suns. So again, because you're only allowed 3, this guy kind of doesn't have a point anymore. There's another Venom. I also have like 2 or 3 more in boxes down below. I have yet to build them, but they're going to be built and painted pretty soon because that's probably going to be my new competitive list. I also got to pick up the Incarn. The Incarn's actually part of my Drukhari list, interestingly enough. I just got these guys the other day. They're Blood Angels Assault Marines, but I have leftover bits of Thunderhammers and Storm Shields, so I'm going to turn a couple of them into Smash Captains. So if I want, I can run some Smash Captains alongside my Grey Knights or my Guard if I ever get them painted up and stuff like that. We have Berserkers. These were the first models I ever bought, and they were painted like that one guy I showed you a long time ago, and I stripped them all and just haven't used them. Because, well, they're garbage, and I normally play competitive games, and when I'm not playing competitive games, or even when I am, I usually try to only play painted models, because I don't like unpainted models. So, yeah, I don't ever use these guys. So this is another unit I'm probably going to end up selling. So if anybody wants, I believe it's 10 Berserkers. If anybody wants some Berserkers, send me an offer, and let me know. I got Nurglings because I have the Plague Bearers over here. which are going to be in my Chaos Soup army eventually when I finish it. I just need to finish painting them up. And they will get painted sooner than later because the contrast stuff, I've heard it's really good, but as you can see, I haven't used it myself yet. But yeah, we'll see. I'm going to try it out. I got 2 units of Devastators or Havocs. I've used them as Havocs for my Red Legion. They were really good because you can use Veterans of the Long War and Endless Cacophony on them. The Heavy Bolters were the cheapest version. And this was before they released like the new rules for the Havocs, where they have that broken chain gun and stuff. I got these 3 Aggressors that I used to use as my Obliterators because I really hated the old Obliterator models. And the new Obliterator models look amazing, but mine aren't painted, and well, these ones aren't either. But once I got the new models, which I'll show in a minute, I use them now over these guys. If I do decide to go with Obliterators, personally, I still don't really like Obliterators, but hey, we got some Possessed. I only have 5, but back when I was testing out Chaos stuff, I was using them and Chaos Space Marines as just like stand-ins to test out, like proxying basically, because I don't own 20 Possessed. But yeah, I was proxying like Chaos Space Marines and stuff. That's what, when I test out a lot of stuff, it's usually I'm using proxies because I don't own it, or I go on Tabletop Simulator because Tabletop Simulator you can get whatever you want on there. And if you don't know what that is, it's a game on Steam that you can use to play Warhammer 40k with mods. So yeah, so I got 5 Possessed. There's the rest of the Terminators that aren't painted yet, and probably never will be painted. Because, to be honest, I'd rather go and buy the new Chaos Terminator models and just build and paint them. They look so much better than the older ones. We got a bunch of Guardsmen. There's like the Loyal 32 plus some mortars in the back. And then, yeah, the Cultists I said earlier. There's a ton more. There's probably. And then the last thing to show you guys is the new Shadow Spear box. I bought this to be able to get the rules and do a review on it. And I have yet to build or paint. Well, I built it all, as you can see. But I have yet to paint anything. I have played with some of this stuff. Just to test them out and see how they felt and figure out synergies and stuff. But yeah, I haven't painted them because most of them aren't really competitive in my opinion, and the ones that are, mainly the Space Marine stuff, I don't have the full armies yet to actually like play them. But once I get my Crimson Fist built, you'll probably see some of these models in there. The only thing competitive on the Chaos side, in my opinion, is like the Venom Crawler. It's pretty decent, but even then, I'd rather run like a Defiler or 3 Lord Discordants. And then like this guy, he could be pretty good if he could come on a bike. But because he's too slow, he can't keep up with like the Lord Discordants and the Demon Engines as they're running up the board. So his auras and stuff aren't that great. But if he did come on a bike, then he would, or a jump pack, then he would definitely be able to keep up with them. But the only way I found being able to keep up with him is to bring him with like a Sorcerer on bike. And then you could use a Sorcerer to warp time him up to keep him up. But why do that when you could just warp time a Demon Engine to get into combat on turn 1? So it made no sense. So yeah, and that's I guess pretty much it. That's going to be it for my entire collection. I hope you guys enjoyed looking at my stuff and listening to me talk. So yeah, for the last words, check out Bearbox Studios again. He's a great painter. He does an amazing job at painting models. These Zangors are probably some of the best looking models I have. The Celestine model looks absolutely beautiful as well. And yeah, so check out Bearbox Studios. He's my current sponsor, or at least currently as of this video. And yeah, and that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next video. Happy wargaming.